Yeah, I think there's a real shift that needs to occur, between this role of the ethicist, which we've never, I mean, we have had, ethics in technology for many, many years, but, this role of the ethicist and wanting to have ethics in the design process with us is a newer thing. And if you think about it, I always say that the ethicist has like almost a Hippocratic oath, right? Their job is to, if something's entirely awful and unethical, their job is to raise the issue and publish the issue. And that is the antithesis of the legal department. The legal department, once there's a risk to the firm, shut everything down, fire somebody, lock it down. So their reaction to a problem like that is different. So that's why we go back to this topic of racy and thresholds and setting expectations between these roles. Because at Google, I think, and look, everything's great in hindsight. It's easy to make an opinion of these things, but the ethicist there was trying to raise a valid issue about data, use of big data. I forget exactly what the details of the issue was, but and maybe the question was the way in which she was enabled to go about it and given the right psychological safety to raise those concerns, but for someone else to take over that concern and sign off on it, so that where the ethicist role ends and the technology executive and legal department role takes over with clarity, so that people can be sure that nothing's going to be impacted or reflected on them personally or professionally. So until some of this gets more mature, which is the goal of Athena, is to help clients make this more mature and clear and have better processes. I think it's just going to take time.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm looking over here in the questionnaire where you have, Michael asking about, finance and medical industries, right? The two areas that are very apparent, I think you're seeing a lot of interest in, is with financial companies. With the processes that are out there, there are a lot of things that are being run by machines right now, which is, your credit rating, for example, right? And the underwriting process. And
Right.
behind that is a lot of data and a lot of ranking of that data to determine what the outcomes are going to be. And in the case where not enough care is being put into the process to understand the outcomes and monitor those outcomes, these machines could potentially look at the data and begin to learn and interpret some things on their own, right, unintended from day one by the humans, to drive an outcome or a specific group that you may be just living in the wrong zip code, right, or being in a taking an action that might be of a specific pattern that comes out with a specific group, that you may come out and get your credit rating or your underwriting when you're going for a loan process, that you get an unfavorable outcome. The other one that was brought up here on medical industries, those that know the doctors very well, you'll start to understand that doctors spend time saving lives. And a lot of decision support processes now are in your applications that these doctors use. So those that are doing, that work in doctors' offices and hospitals, you know these systems that are out there. So one of the things that the doctors use a lot that they don't like to do themselves is coding for what are the, what do you call that, diagnosis, right? So your ICD-10 codes. Now, a lot of these systems today, what they do is they do auto coding for those doctors before they get reviewed by a human being. And what happens with these auto codings are, again, it's learning along the way to say certain symptoms that are coming in as I'm triaged by the nurses, and that the doctors are taking, right, the information down. What are some of the potential diagnoses that are there? And then the system goes to the next level of basically saying, these are the certain procedures that the doctor should perform to solve the problem. And again, behind that is a lot of data, a lot of math that eventually comes out with an outcome of a specific procedure. So I think a lot of folks have potentially heard some of the challenges that some of the HMOs had years ago, where they were saying that patients were being pushed to do certain procedures that they may not have agreed upon because the insurance companies were trying to get them into a lower cost remedy, right? So again, you would think that these systems that are now having AI on the background, making recommendations onto what will affect the patient's health and the outcomes, how are we layering this into the design, into the monitoring, into the things that we do, right? So that again, the outcomes come out to again what Gwen and the team had shared for the overall well-being. So I think hopefully that helps people kind of tick and tie right with the concepts, the methodologies, and really what the real world outcomes that are actually coming out.